All right, everybody. Welcome to the Bird Rights Podcast. My name is Zach, and we're back. This is an emergency Ravens podcast. You know, we're all Ravens fans here. This is an emergency podcast because we are absolutely disgraced at what we saw last night against the Bengals. I'm again joined by Jack Kovahay, and Declan. And we have a new member here, Tyler Momsey, and also a knower of ball. So we're just gonna basically rant here about how awful our franchise has become. Yeah, I'm gonna stop screen sharing. Yeah, I'm just fucking pissed off about this, bro. Like, this was one of the most embarrassing playoff losses I've ever had, like, witnessed as a Ravens fan. I mean, we really had this game in our grasp with a backup quarterback against the Bengals, and we blew it. We blew it in classic.
Yeah. This was really capped off, a tough number of years for the Ravens as a fan, honestly. I mean, we seem to find the single most painful ways to lose the season
Always.
every goddamn year. And it's getting really old, at least for me. I'm pretty tired of feeling this goddamn shit. But I mean, you almost want to be proud of them because they weren't supposed to have a chance in this game. Huntley obviously is not Lamar.
Played his ass off though. You get
he
some
did.
credit.
He gave us a chance. I was gonna say, like Dobbins said, which we'll get into in a little bit. If we have Lamar, we probably win that game. But
spitting.
Huntley did put us in a position where we had a chance to win, and that's probably the most painful part because we were inches away. And yet, some dumbass, whoever that might have been, there's some blame being thrown around between Harbaugh and Huntley in the post game. And one more fucking obvious one is Roman that we're gonna dive deeply into here in a minute. Yeah, really the purpose of this pod is just to destroy Greg Roman, and I mean, at least from my perspective, explain why he needs to be out the door by tomorrow. Or should have been out the door by this morning. But yeah, I mean, embarrassing loss, and just another painful end of the season.
Yeah, the way we lost is always you knew it was going to be the most painful way imaginable. That's what it had to be, and it was always going to be. If it would have been a blowout, kind of would have expected it. Credit to Harbaugh though, he got our guys ready, and we thoroughly outplayed them. And that's why it is 10 times more painful because it was the fumble on the goal line, and that inches costs you your season. But credit to Harbaugh for getting the guys ready to play. But God, that was a brutal way to end it. I genuinely think outside of maybe 4 plays the entire game, we outplayed them top to bottom, outgained them, played better defense than them. It was an impressive performance from a dinged up team that we were missing all our receivers for most of the year. And given the Bengals were missing a lot of their O-line, and that's part of it. But it would have been much less painful to even if Burrow led a 95-yard drive. Even if we fumble on the one and then Burrow gets a 95-yard drive and scores, that would be infinitely more, okay, it's Joe Burrow. He's one of the 3 best quarterbacks in the league or 5 best quarterbacks in the league, whatever. It happens sometimes, but that was brutal. I'll let Kovahay.
I mean, we had more passing yards than the Bengals.
Yeah.
with Tyler Huntley as our quarterback.
With Tyler Huntley and with James Prochet lining up on like half the passing snaps. I mean, there's really no other way to put it. Like like you said, like it'd be so much more okay in my emotional ass self if we could have just lost by 20 points, but instead they had to make it literally like as close as possible. Like they've lost in the most heartbreaking ways before, over and over and over again, but I don't think they've come like an inch away from winning the game like that before. But besides, like, there's been some times in the past, but it's been a little bit at least.
The AB stretch.
Yeah, I was thinking about the AB stretch when
the other Bengals game, the fucking Tyler Boyd touchdown on 4th and 12.
touchdown.
Sure, yeah.
Also a game where
but he waltzed into the damn own end zone after
There was a game where
we
Lamar like dove in and fumble. They called it a fumble right on like the one as
The
well.
Cleveland
We-
Browns,
that-
when the CJ Mosley interception game, Lamar fumbled on the 1 yard line, just like
Yeah.
Huntley
Yeah,
did too.
Yeah, but we won that game. Also, Lamar
Okay,
fumbled on the
yeah.
1 yard line against the Colts 2 years ago, and then we
Oh,
went down
yeah.
20. We went down
And
21-0. We're at 21. We're down
Yeah.
21, and we came back.
a
We
big
won that.
reason that play wasn't against the Browns wasn't some massive play. They blew it dead, so they couldn't return it. But if they didn't blew that dead, the Browns would have taken that back, just like this.
Yeah,
Cincinnati.
that would have been bad.
I gotta just put in there. I mean, to
Also,
make it
block
even
in the
more,
back, by the way.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. To make it even a little fucking more painful, they missed an obvious block in the back.
Yeah, I mean,
Dude, Mark
come
hustled
on,
his ass off there.
He
That
did.
was-
He was a
He
good
deserved,
hustle.
he
Mark
deserved
tried.
that call.
I as a fan, I've loved John Harbaugh and what he's brought to this organization for a very long time, but I think it's really starting to get really fucking old that this guy, every single time we lose, will go up to the podium and just talk about how, as a team, we need to accept this loss and wear it on our chest and, move forward. And I feel like every time that you should say that, you should accept the mistakes that you made and fix them. It just seems like you can't fix these mistakes.
It certainly seems like we're not fixing them, but I don't know what we want him to say, to be honest. Like, he's not going to come up there and be like, "Man, Snoop fucking sucks." Like, I don't know what he's supposed
I
to
agree.
say.
I do
he
agree.
did say
but
Snoop was supposed to
He
go
kind of,
low.
yeah, he was supposed to go, but that's
Which
a
he
criticism
probably
that
was, but like it is probably not like the best time to say that. Maybe let
Yeah,
Snoop be the one to
Snoop
say
under
like,
the
my
bus a
bad,
little bit.
I should have gone low.
I've
And
said
I
this.
mean,
at a certain point when you're talking about owning stuff, maybe like it's been years of him saying this, maybe just, make some personnel changes, the ones that the fans have been begging for. Like, we've been begging for some big personnel changes for a little bit of time now. Like, obviously, like, we really wanted Greg gone last year and we got rid of Wink instead. And look what,
which I think
Wink's
that
doing
was a
right
good
now.
decision. I think what's so ironic about that is the reasoning behind moving on from Wink was Wink's a great defensive coordinator. I think Wink's great at his job. Wink's a great defensive coordinator, but the way he calls plays is super aggressive, and that's not going to work against the Joe Burrows, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen's of the world. So John Harbaugh recognized that and said, Wink's great at his job, but we need a different style, we're at a different point in the team right now. We have all this defensive talent and we've added so much more. We need to change the philosophy. And instead of being always aggressive, we can still be aggressive, but more selectively aggressive and have kind of a
Pick your
different
poison.
shell. Pick your poison. Be more specific about when you're attacking on defense. And Mike McDonald, after, kind of getting his feet under him in the start of the year, has been amazing as a defensive play caller. And that is the exact same logic behind why we need to move on from Roman. I think Roman deserves a job. I think he'd be a fantastic college coach with the way he draws up run schemes. I
agree.
I think if the Bears went out and got him to be a transition OC, he could make Fields look amazing for 2 years, and then you move on. You can't. There's a shelf life there, but he could be someone's OC. But he cannot be the OC of a team that's attempting to push past. All right, we got an okay team to consistent playoffs. He can't be the one to take you from consistent playoffs to legit contender. For the same reasons Wink can't. I think the Giants. You're going to see the Giants against the Eagles next week. Blitz the shit out of Jalen Hurts, and it's not going to work. But he's good for the Giants, and because that's kind of they're getting into playoff contention.
Wink is getting a head coach interviews now.
I think
Wink
I mean,
could be-
he did already with the Ravens, but now immediately in his first year on a new job, he's getting opportunities again.
Yeah, I think Harbaugh does not need to go. I think Harbaugh is a very good coach. He would be unemployed for all of 5 minutes. Somebody would pick him up immediately. However,
It's just seeming like
if it is Harbaugh, if I've actually been able to, I would have fired Roman a long time ago. However, I can see the justifications in the past for keeping him. If Harbaugh at this point cannot see that he needs to move on from Greg Roman, then it's time to move on from Harbaugh. I don't think that's the case. I think Harbaugh will know, and he'll, if anything, try and save his own ass. But I think he knows it's time to move on, and they'll, in the next week or so, they'll paint it as it's a mutual decision. Greg Roman's going to coach Stanford. We would have loved to keep him, but that's not at all the case. But I think
Stanford's getting a great hire.
Should have been
and-
recognized. Yeah. Yeah, I do think he could coach at the college level really
No, I
well.
think
I think he'd be a
the
great
run
college
game
coach.
is so much more important
Yeah.
in college.
Yeah.
And like that's why you see like running backs being like the
Yeah.
huge playmakers.
Also in college, you don't need to have like a super like your offense doesn't have to be like everything. You don't have to be like amazing at everything. You could just be a pound the rock team and still
Mhm.
be an elite college team.
Yeah,
which is
and I
why
mean
he's there.
his run game is good. Like I don't want to take
If he
that
would
away
if
from
he
him.
would stay as the run game coordinator, he
Yeah.
would.
I would
If he
absolutely
would,
keep him.
I would
mean,
be great
there
with
was
that.
there was one play last night that I think really encapsulated it well. It was that I think it was the Tyler Huntley 35-yard run that I'm thinking of where
Oh,
he
yeah.
pulled the tight end and Ricard one way, and then he had the tackle,
Yep.
which was the new tackle. It was the play that Moses was hurt. And the
McKay.
center, I think it was
Yeah.
Linderbaum, pull the opposite way and just had Huntley do a little option following them, and it was perfect.
It created a massive
it,
hole. It was
it
McCary
totally
versus
drew
Eli
the,
Apple
it
on
drew
the
half the
outside.
defense to the side where the two misdirection pullers went. And I mean, like, how often do you see him like a pulling misdirection? Like, that's really creative. I like seeing that. But like, there's so much else that
Yeah,
he
for
fucked up, man.
Like
for every you can go ahead.
I was gonna say like this man is like when I think about like rushing offenses and like creativity, like you were talking about, this man is a genius when it comes to like creating like specific run plays and stuff like that. But when you see his passing trees and his like the routes that he draws up, he literally his passing plays are almost like a 5-year-old is just drawing on a sheet of paper.
It's worse than Joe Lombardi, and Joe Lombardi
He
calls
draws up-
4 hitch routes every play.
Yeah, he literally will draw up like receivers running into each other.
Yeah.
Overlapping routes that just put receivers 2 yards away from each other for the entire play. Like, it seems like it's designed to not work. And
Yeah.
like I mean, combined with all of his
He had a
interesting personnel decisions, to say the least, I mean, which I have a list of from last night. It really just adds up to quite the.
And everyone knows that he abandons the run game too early a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And
Which
then
is
we'll look
it's
at
like-
we'll look at the snap counts and we'll see like the worst splits that you've ever seen with like bums playing like 70% of them.
Yeah. If you're gonna build a team the way we did and have no receivers, and you're gonna have this genius run game coordinator that's running your offense, why are we throwing the ball on 3 times in a row on 1st and goal when you had just run 6 yards, 8 yards, 12 yards, 30 yards,
Yeah,
like
man.
back to back to back? It drives me nuts.
I just think that this guy, like his play calling ability is like so odd because you'll see him throwing on like 1st and goals and stuff like that. You'll see him like throwing on all those like short route or short yardage plays, but then like we'll get to like a 2nd and like 11 and he'll just like hand it off inside zone. Like it's not like you should not be running on a 2nd and long, 3rd and long, or like throwing a wide receiver screen on like 3rd and 15. Like I don't get it. Like this, I feel like he's really creative, but maybe he just doesn't know how to call plays well. Like
That stuff doesn't bother me as much. Like the screen stuff on third, we don't have a whole lot of, unless Lamar's out there, we don't have a whole lot of get 15 yards plays for Tyler Huntley. So I get trying to move the ball a little bit, maybe get in the field goal range or punt better or whatever. But he's really good at something. He just, I guess, forgets that sometimes and wants to like prove a point, wants to prove it's like, hey, look, I can draw up pass plays for Tyler Huntley, and proceeds to recall a rollout play to the right where 3 of the receivers are going to the left. It's like what he's gonna do? He's not throwing it 60 yards to get 5 yards. What are we doing?
We haven't even talked about the clock management yet. Greg Roman has literally the longest play sheet in the league. It's like a confirmed
That's
fact.
Consistently, yeah. That
And
happened in
that's
Buffalo.
been a problem
and
that's going to
happened in
happen for
San
like 10
Francisco,
years for this guy. Like they always phone in plays like at the last second. And I understand some of it being like, okay, we want to take, chew the clock and like own the time of possession. But when you're getting plays in with 0 seconds,
just tell the quarterback to wait. Don't wait to call the play.
And I know it's not an excuse for his slow ass.
Yeah.
There was a play specifically I feel like related really well last night to what we're talking about. So you come out right on your first possession, you move the ball a little bit, throw an interception. Should not have been throwing on that down. We can start by saying that. But all that's out of the way already. That's in the past. You come out on your second drive. What is the first play you call? A fucking Patrick Ricard fullback screen?
He's a 300-pound defensive tackle
Okay,
that
like
we have
dude,
playing
what?
fullback.
Here's what I wonder, right? There was okay, this almost just makes me think of back in like when there was a storyline mode in Madden a few years ago. And the character like threw a really bad interception in a big game. And the coach was like, "What is the upside of that play, son? You gained 10 yards?" Like, that's what I'm thinking. Like, what is the upside of him completing that pass? 2 yards, dude?
It's
Like,
like 2 yards. That's
And the
yeah,
downside
mean,
is like a sack or like
the
negative 4
down
yards.
it almost got like picked off. Like if the dude made like a slightly
It's
better break on it. I mean, come
the
on, man.
the Chargers have a similar problem where the Chargers, with Joe Lombardi, they're okay, he needs to be gone, but they run all of this. They need super precise, perfect execution in order to get 8-yard hitch routes to work. And it's it works sometimes because Justin Herbert is pretty damn precise and perfect half the time. But it's when the Chiefs execute a play perfectly, it's a 60-yard touchdown or a pass play because when we run pretty well whenever we do. But when Buffalo executes a play perfectly, it's a touchdown. Even I'm going to just take when Minnesota does it doesn't have to just be these
Mhm.
high upside quarterbacks. But when we execute one of our pass concepts to perfection, it's like, oh wow, I'm really happy Josh Oliver got 9 yards on that slip screen right there. It's like, what are we doing? It's
yeah.
why
And
is
I think something that makes it a little bit more difficult for a team like us is we also just our receiving talent outside of our tight ends right now is just absolutely atrocious. Like Demarcus Robinson, sure, he can make a play here and there. Like he could be a good like fourth option, third
yeah, he'd
option
be a
kind of
fine
guy.
wide receiver 4 or 5. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean he can make plays, but he's our wide receiver one. Like right now, like Bateman has had injury
Even
problems
when
this
Bateman was
entire
healthy, he
time.
was the two,
Yeah, no,
He-
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, like Duvernay is okay, but he's more of a gadget guy. Like we've all talked
yeah.
about this.
They
He's not
misutilize
really
him.
like
That's another story.
yeah.
I mean,
And they
I
should be
think that
utilizing him like that. But I do want to just say this: James Prochet is literally possibly the worst player in the league.
cut him right
Jack
now.
said something about this yesterday, and I have these stats right here that I'm going to say. This
Yeah.
dude averaged 3.6
Yes.
yards per target. He had more penalties than catches in the entire year, and he's not even like a good returner either. And I think what Covey said last night was that he has a good argument for worst player in the league, and I completely agree. This dude is a certified bum. This
Thank
dude
you.
should not be playing on an NFL football field. This guy is trash.
You know,
I'm not gonna. The reason we lost isn't because he dropped the Hail Mary, but
Yeah.
he certainly
Oh
could
no,
have
I
caught that
agree.
Hail
Yeah,
Mary. He
he
certainly could have caught
certainly
it. Yeah.
should have caught that Hail
Yeah.
Mary. I mean,
If Duvernay's
like,
healthy standing there, I promise he catches that. That's where
so sorry, I lost what my note that I wanted to say. Um, yeah, no. So going back to that clock management for a minute. I mean, part of that is on Harbaugh, right? On that, I want to talk about that last drive. But I mean, there was just one sequence of plays that I specifically want to focus in on for a second, and I mean, this is on both of them. It's just possibly the single worst series I have ever seen with your season on the line. I mean, so I believe it was I don't have specifically what the play was beforehand, but it was something that kept the clock moving. I think it was a short
I
pass.
got it. It was a check down to Dobbins. He got about
Yep.
11 yards. Got stopped at
And
the Cincinnati 28.
and
About a minute 30 left.
they didn't call a timeout. And I thought that was really interesting. And the clock ran down, and then we ran another play, and there was a holding penalty. So now we're at second and
They called a
15.
run for Justice Hill.
And there was
They're
it was a
RB3.
run play on second down that was
Holding.
then sent back to second and 15 or second and 20, and then we ran the ball again. And I don't really understand what the fuck the point was. like it seemed like we were just trying to set ourselves up to need to throw it up to the end zone with one play left. I mean, I was even just talking about this like right after the game. It was like, I mean, call a timeout, man. Like we ended the season with a timeout in our pocket. Why? Why would you ever do that?
I
Yeah,
saw
I
a tweet
mean,
that said that we got to there's 37 at the 2 minute warning, or I think it was, and then we were at their 27 with 8 seconds left.
it's just
There
incredible.
was there's many ways you don't need to call a timeout. So it's about a minute 30 on the 28, 1st and 10. That two timeouts left. That should not be a time should not be a problem there. That should not be an
Absolutely
issue at
not.
all. That's
Yeah.
and you don't have to call a timeout, right? You can get up to the line quick, call a
They
pass.
huddled up though,
Maybe
and
it falls
they
incomplete.
cooked
They
the
huddled
damn
up
You
and they
can
clock.
called a
spike
run.
it.
You can also you can also call a run. I'm okay with calling the run and then using a timeout. The holding obviously killed us, but if you're gonna call a run, get it in quick and go, or call a
Yeah,
timeout.
man.
And it
Huddled
was
up
Yeah,
for
don't let the
17
clock don't
seconds
let
to
the
call an
clock run for 30 seconds.
outside zone.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
and I know we said we were going to talk about this, and Justice Hill getting a run in the end of the game while we have Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins on our team is just kind of incredible. And J.K. really sounded off after the game yesterday. And when I saw his comments, I was like, he's telling the truth, but usually like you don't see NFL players like talk like that during after game scenarios. And he literally said like I need to get like more touches. Like it's ridiculous. He was pissed off, and he even said like if Lamar was on the field, we would have won the game.
You
Yeah,
And
he
know,
also
I
said
just
I saw him say that if Snoop like did a hell of a job too, but he like I think even Snoop would like recognize the difference. Maybe that
yeah,
yeah.
I think
I think yeah.
I
Go
think
ahead.
the only problem I had with anything he said was the thing about if Lamar was on the field, then we would have won. I Huntley played his ass off. I don't
Mhm.
think he's wrong that if we had Lamar, we easily win that game. And there were play that you could break it down to the play. I mean, there was one play where like Sam Hubbard tackled Huntley when he stumbled. Lamar would have broken that for a touchdown, like easily. But anyway, everything else he said, I have no problem with. He was brutally honest, but I mean, he was averaging 4 yards per carry. He was averaging 11 yards per catch. He got 13 carries for the entire game. This is a guy who earlier in the week came out and publicly said, "I want to put the team on my back. You guys know that you don't want to throw the ball. We know we're a running team. Give me the ball. Let me carry us to victory."
Mhm.
And it feels almost disrespectful to just I mean, they completely abandoned him. He fought his ass off, got us that reaching touchdown, and then he didn't get another red zone touch for the rest of the game. It makes no sense.
Not for lack of being in the red zone. We were there 3 more times. So
I
Yeah.
mean,
yeah.
They always do this to him late game. I feel like we always see like, oh, JK's cooking, like his touches are getting kind of up there, and then it's like 3 touches in the second half.
It's fine if short yardage. Gus is the short yardage guy. I get that. That's fine. It's the Justice Hill snap. Justice Hill's a decent player, but it's he's not J.K. Dobbins, and
no,
it's
I
at the
don't.
end of the game. There's no justification for Justice Hill to be on the field unless it's as a second scat back kind of thing. If you got
Justice
two
ends up
guys in the
like playing
backfield,
more snaps than JK most games. And I know
it's
that's because
crazy.
he's a weapon in the passing game, but I wish they'd use JK that way a little bit more.
Yeah. J.K. was good in the passing game. He had a few pretty good catches. The touchdown was a
Yeah,
reception. I'm pretty sure.
it's true. But like you recognize that Justice is out there a lot
Yeah,
on third
Justice is probably
downs.
a little better of a pass catching back to third down, third and
Yeah,
long kind of back.
yeah. But then it just takes
Certainly
JK
not
off the
first
field.
and 10 on a new set of downs.
Yeah, I
Yep.
mean,
Yeah, it's all frustrating. We all hope Roman's gone in the next week or so. I mean, we hope he's gone today, but we better be gone in the next week, or we're gonna have
Bit
I don't
of
know.
some,
There might be another new hole in my coffee table if he's not. Um,
I mean, on lighter news, I guess I did want to bring up the fact that we did get to witness Eli Apple get cooked again. This time by a mid wide receiver in Demarcus Robinson. Absolutely
Yeah,
cooked him
I'll
right down the
put it this
field.
way. When in the preseason we saw Demarcus Robinson cook some fourth string corner with that exact same move, and everyone was like, "Well, Demarcus Robinson's a pro. He's going to cook some seventh round rookie who's trying to make the team. Of course, he's a pro. Demarcus Robinson's a good player. It's fine. You know, he deserves to be on an NFL roster. So basically, Eli Apple is the same as a 7th round rookie corner trying to
Oh,
fighting to make the team, and he's their number 1 corner.
yeah.
So that's some joy. That's all. Diggs is gonna
Eli
have
Apple
field day.
sucks.
Diggs is
That's
gonna
not
have
news.
200. Diggs is gonna have 250 yards next week.
Probably.
I hope he does.
And you know, we would have gotten our asses beat by the Chiefs anyway. So
Oh yeah, we would. Yeah, that wouldn't have been fun because Lamar wouldn't have been ready.
no, absolutely.
Speaking of
Yeah, it's
that,
unfortunate.
do you
Go
guys
ahead.
want
We haven't
to? You
even
guys
like
want to get into the Lamar stuff at all?
We probably
Yeah.
should
yeah,
a little
I was
bit.
literally about to say that. Like we haven't even gotten like to the point of even like kind of really thinking about like we could have witnessed the end of like Lamar's last game as a Raven possibly, which is really hard to like, grasp. But it really could be a possibility here.
Yeah, I think if we're being smart, which you know, I want to. Generally speaking, the Ravens front office at least makes very sound, reasonable decisions and is a well run franchise, and we don't fuck up egregiously too often. That said, this new guaranteed money that's being thrown around, I know Bishotti is afraid of it, and it's also besides just being afraid of it, it's financially burdensome to put whatever it would have to be if Lamar wants 250 fully guaranteed to put the rule is you got to put 250 in escrow right now, right as he signs the deal, and that's burdensome and it costs a lot for ownership. So I understand our hesitation if we can't get Lamar there. With that said, we'll get into what the other options are in a little bit, but in short, the options are contend with Lamar or roll the dice and hope for the best with whatever you get for him. And I think you got a top 5, top 6 at worst. I'd say at worst he's the 7th best quarterback in the league. I'd have him somewhere around 4 or 5. I'd have Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, Herbert are the only guys I'd consider over him. I mean Lawrence is getting there, but it's a short Hurts, I guess. It's a short list. I think you got to do what you need to do to keep him. You know, obviously negotiate. Don't just give him all of the money immediately, but try and find some neutral ground. I get that they were trying. They gave a legitimate offer last year, but it's not looking good right now with Lamar's Instagram post and stuff, and it's all getting cryptic. And I'm not worried about him not being at the game. You know, former players have come out and said it's inflammation comes when you take flights like that, and it's pretty standard protocol not to bring those guys. Because you would have wanted a chance for him to play next week if you could have won the game. But I don't think it's a sure thing that he's gone, but I'm certainly feeling more than I ever have that I'm like 60-40 now, gone versus not gone. I think 40% I think he's still here. I mean, he could stay this year, but I'm not so sure. We'll have to see. I don't think he'd play on the franchise tag.
Did
I don't
everyone
think he would.
see what Lamar posted on his Instagram story today?
Yes.
Yes, I did. Or you can.
Well, I'll just read it
real quick,
anyway,
Dalton.
just for like
Yeah.
for context. He said he posted a quote and he said, "When you have something good, you don't play with it. You don't take chances losing it. You don't neglect it. When you have something good, you pour into it. You appreciate it. Because if you take care of something good, that good thing takes care of you too." And I just feel like the timing's a little coincidental for that quote. Like, I
I'm
mean,
gonna choose to believe he had a bad breakup with a girlfriend.
well, yeah. Otherwise, it's a
Just
bad breakup with
yeah,
his team.
he was going to church yesterday and
Yeah.
he really that stuck with him, I guess.
Spiritual moment for him. It's
God,
nothing
he
to
was
do
talking
with
about God.
yeah.
Yeah. No, but yeah, I saw earlier today there were something on Twitter. The odds came out. They're unofficial, obviously, but there was some odds of who's going to land Lamar. I think the Patriots is the favorite currently to land Lamar Jackson if he leaves.
Yeah.
Belichick does
Quite
love
the
himself
sight.
some Lamar, but I don't think they have the shit to get him.
It'd be
Yeah.
quite the horrible sight to see Lamar go to a Patriots in a Patriots jersey. But
I don't
the
think
edits
we
are flying on Twitter right now.
I don't think it'll happen.
every fan base wants him.
I would say that, going back to something you said, Declan, said the options are contend with Lamar or roll the dice. I would go so far as to say that the options are contend with Lamar or suck for a while.
Rebuild, yeah.
I mean, we're gonna. I would hope at least that we get significant draft capital for him,
You're getting at least. I promise you're getting at least what Watson got, which was three
Yeah,
firsts,
yeah,
two
yeah.
thirds, and a fourth. So that, and you're
And I
getting
mean, I would
probably
hope
more than
that
that.
I would hope that Lamar would carry with enough weight to maybe bring a serviceable quarterback in along with a package like that to,
Well, if you
you
get a
know,
high
Yeah.
enough pick,
well, yeah, but
I have some package ideas I'll throw out there in a little
okay,
I
bit.
think
But yeah,
Bonzi means like a veteran, like
that's
yeah,
what I
I
was
know.
gonna say.
Yeah, I
A
have. Yeah,
veteran
there's a few
Jared
ideas
QB
out
Goff.
that can
there.
start for
Goff
us
is.
for a year and, you know, bring in the new quarterback. But I don't really want to think about it, unfortunately.
You know, I
Yeah,
I do think that our roster is
defensively
very
is.
good. Defense amazing. So I feel like if we get a serviceable enough quarterback, we could still be in contention for like a wild card, maybe like the 7th seed. But honestly, I don't know if I'd rather try and get the 7th seed or just lose to get a higher pick. So, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah,
I would say that with who our organization is, we would probably
Go for the 7th seed.
for the 7th
yeah,
seed.
we're not. Yeah, I as much my course of action if we lost Lamar would be get a bunch of picks, but none of them for this year, and then tank for Caleb Williams, and then you
No,
have
because
Caleb Williams and a million picks. It'd be great,
yeah,
but
I
we wouldn't
mean,
do that.
Stroud just declared for the draft this year. But the next year's draft class for quarterbacks is amazing, is what it looks like right now. So yeah, I kind of agree with you there. There's some really good high talent in this draft, but next year is going to be even better.
Yeah, Kove,
I
anything?
really feel like our roster is so good besides wide receiver. Like,
The
I
O
mean,
line's top five.
oh,
The
the O
defense
line's
is
very
top
good. The
two.
tight end position's very good. The quarterback position's very, very good, assuming Lamar is there. When you go to the defense, it's the same thing. Like they have a great front seven. The secondary is pretty damn good as well overall. Great special teams. It's really just like crucial coaching decisions and the wide receiver position. And it's not even 100% their fault that wide receiver sucks. Like they could have done a lot more. We know that, but they also had their top two receivers talent wise go down before the playoffs, and that's going to cause quite a bit of problems.
I want to put this out there. It is not all that burdensome to like obviously paying a quarterback what we're going to have to pay Lamar if we are to keep him does make it incredibly hard to win a Super Bowl. As many people have noted, it's the last time a quarterback making top five money in this position has won the Super Bowl was God. I can't even think. I can't even remember when the last time that was. It's been a long time since someone like Stafford wasn't making top five money. He was making and the Rams were especially paying him less than that. Mahomes wasn't on this deal when they won. Brady always takes discounts. Goff was on a rookie deal when they got there, and they lost to the Patriots. But regardless, there's ways to do it. See, the Chiefs are contending with it with Mahomes making money right now. Dallas is contending with Dak making serious money right now, and more importantly about those two teams, even with Dak, who's clearly not on the same level of any of these guys, but he's a good quarterback. They are contending and in the playoffs consistently because they have that quarterback. And I'd much rather be in that team and have a fighting chance with Lamar than, be in QB purgatory looking for a new quarterback until you find your guy. But it's not all that burdensome to keep Lamar, at least next year. We have the cap room to do it. You can structure a deal such that you have some flexibility. You could even structure it so that you have some flexibility to add some more talent. We're not going to be, we're not adding a bunch of crazy free agents or anything, but you could make one serious addition, one serious trade kind of thing for a receiver or to keep somebody like maybe your serious thing
Andre
is
Hopkins.
yeah maybe D Hop or maybe you're something like that maybe yeah you could but
Lazard.
regardless Lazard that's a smaller thing but it's a decent free agent
It would
who'd
help
be
the
get
team.
around get around 10 million a year, then you can draft a receiver in the first round. It's certainly doable to build your team. If let's just say the deal is 5 years, 250, whatever guaranteed, right? It's something like that, 200 guaranteed, 210, whatever it is, which would probably get the deal done. You can certainly build the team at least for this coming year and the year after that, where it's not all that burdensome the way you structure the cap hits, and then going forward you can still manage it. So it is all up to whether ownership. I truly believe general manager. I think EDC DaCosta would gladly get a deal done. I truly believe it's ownership's hesitation is what's stopping a deal from getting done. And we'll see where it goes, but it's certainly doable. It's just a matter of if Lamar's done with it, and and if he's willing to do it at this point, and if we are willing to move a little bit on our hard stance that we won't go more guaranteed.
Yeah. Mhm. I also think that we can very easily, like you said, build a really good roster with or without Lamar, obviously. And obviously sticking with Lamar, I think, is probably the better idea. We could always I know our front office is a very, laid back kind of play it safe front office, but if we wanted to go all in on Lamar for like the next few years, we could do it like something with like what the Rams did. Just throw away our future for these next 5 years.
I don't love that because it's the difference is the Rams did that with a quarterback who's 33 and had injury problems. At that point, what you're going to be doing is if you're restructuring, like I assume you're suggesting, if you're restructuring deals and making all this room to get
Yeah.
big players, make a D-Hop trade or something crazy, trade for one of the Bucks guys if they start to blow it up or something like that. If you're really making room like that, what's gonna end up happening is you're gonna have this short window, and then uh, we're gonna be like the Saints are right now, where it's like, oh fuck, we're stuck with Cam Jordan, and we're gonna pay him 3 years after he's gone, and he's 35 years old, and same with Demario Davis, and same with Teron Armstead is getting paid for them for three
The
more
Rams
years.
are already in a really shitty spot.
And the Rams are in the shitty spot now where they're paying guys who are gone and stuff like that. So
And they
I
had a
don't,
terrible year,
especially
not
with
to
how
mention.
young Lamar is, I don't think you can go there. But you can certainly do a little, like you can hedge somewhere between the two where you're making a little bit more room and kind of appealing to his urge to win now and still kind of preserving some space for the future. But I wouldn't, me personally as a fan, I wouldn't want to see them push all the chips in like that. You can push some of the chips in, but not all of them like the Saints have done, because the Saints are so brutally fucked. They're so screwed. They're stuck with this team and they don't have any picks, and
Yeah, the Saints could be
50 they're 50 million over the cap. They're stuck. They're 50 million over the cap, which means they literally have to double down again on a roster that's already not good.
Yeah, they have to. We could be looking at the Saints. Obviously, it's kind of off
Yeah.
topic. We'd be looking at the Saints in like 5-6 years as a team, like getting the first round pick, the first overall pick, like multiple years in a row.
Yeah.
And they won't.
I don't want to. I don't want to be stuck. If we're going to make room, the way you do that is, you restructure Stanley and you restructure Humphrey. I don't want to be stuck in 2029 with 35-year-old Stanley and Humphrey, paying them $25 million because of the way it works.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think this is a really stressful time to be a Ravens fan, though. And I am really happy. I think, again, on a lighter note, I am really happy with the way our team performed, like the players wise. We really had a really good game plan, I guess, as a player. But we kind of just played the best we could. I didn't think it was going to be that close of a game as it was, especially with Huntley. But give props to the entire roster for sticking out and playing a close game against a team that was supposed to they're supposed to clobber us. Was what all the people on live TV were saying, was that the Bengals were gonna get a big
NBC said 83% chance they win.
Yeah,
and that really was not the performance that they put up at all.
Yeah, we had, I think, before the Huntley fumble on the 1 yard line, we had a 60% chance of winning that game, and it dropped to 11 after that play.
Yes.
If you guys want to continue the Lamar thing a little further, I have come up with a kind of a list of the teams that may be interested in Lamar, which is all of them, but kind of ranked in Ravens fans. Some of this is going to sound a little bit, when you go on Twitter and you see a fan account that's like, the Cardinals fan accounts, like, here's some trade ideas for DeAndre Hopkins. It's like the Patriots give two first-round picks in a second. It's like, you're not getting one first-round pick for DeAndre Hopkins. So some of this to other fans might sound a little out there. I'm going to try and be objective, and I do think the baseline is what the Texans got, which is 3 first-round picks, one of which was a borderline top 10 pick, definitely, because it was the 12th pick last year. 3 first-round picks, 2/3, and a 4th. I'm starting with that, and considering Lamar is better, not a rapist, and has an MVP, has more in his resume. So I think you can get a little more. So team idea number 1, this would be best for the Ravens, I think, is ironically the Texans, who traded Deshaun Watson. I think if you do the same kind of offer the same offer, except the difference is they have the number 2 overall pick. So if you could get 2, 12, say one of their mid-round picks, like maybe 34, maybe they're top of the second round pick. That might be a bit much to ask, but say 2, 12, 66, and 74. So two first this year, 2/3 this year, and one of their first round picks next year, either their own or Cleveland's. I'd rather have Cleveland's because if we're giving them Lamar, they might be good. I'd rather have Cleveland's first. So 2, 12, a third or a fourth, or third, a couple mid-round picks, whatever. There's always a million. They swap 5th-round picks. Here's a 6th-round, whatever you do. But the core of it, 2, 12, and a first-round pick next year. I think that might be enough given how much value number 2 has. And you could pick your quarterback there, whether it's Stroud or Young. And then you'd have the 12 pick to get a receiver if you want. And you'd also have a bunch of cap room to make a deal for a receiver and more picks to make a deal for a receiver. And I think that'd be interesting. I don't know that the Texans would do that because number 2 by itself is probably worth, like, what would the Colts give to get from 4 to 2? Probably 4 and another first-round pick, right? So I think that would be the best case for the Ravens, but I certainly don't think the Texans are in the point of their rebuild where they're thinking, let's go all in for a quarterback and pay the money. I'm assuming they're just going to take one at 2 and see how it goes. But what do you guys think of that one?
I mean, obviously I love that trade, but I don't know how realistic it is. But
Yeah, I don't either.
It's a great return.
I agree with you that I just don't think the Texans would be interested at this point.
I don't think they'd be interested in just 2 and 12, even just because I think they'd acknowledge the value is fine, but they're not in the point where they're ready to go win games.
That exactly.
The
I just feel like they're
garbage.
still just kind of trash. Honestly, they at the point where they have a few pieces. They're not like hopeless anymore, but like paying Lamar as much money as he wants would kind of just destroy their rebuild because they wouldn't be able to bring in really any vets to support
it would destroy the most fruitful part of the rebuild process, which is the quarterback rookie contract segment.
Yeah. So
they'll never do that trade. I want it, but like I just really don't see it happening.
I
would just imagine they're gonna draft a quarterback too.
Yeah, I agree.
I do have kind of thought about this now. I was talking about this with my dad yesterday, actually. He was the one that kind of brought this up. And it's also probably not really possible at all, but when you think about it a little bit, I saw that Ryan Poles, the Bears GM, said that they weren't going to take a quarterback first overall unless one of the prospects blew them away, which means they aren't completely closed on Fields yet. So what if Lamar for the number 1 overall pick and Justin Fields?
I don't think they'd do that.
Yeah,
I think they might do. I think there's a thought. What if it was Fields and a bundle of second and thirds or whatever? That'd be something that's kind of interesting.
Fields is one of the better prospects that you could land.
Yeah, there's a handful of younger quarterbacks in the league that I'd be interested. Jordan Love is one of them. Trey Lance is interesting. The guys who haven't played yet that are kind of interesting that I'd be okay with kind of seeing what you have there if you have to move on from Lamar. Zach Wilson, not one of them. Jets fans, I'm sorry. I know the Jets want him. All right. So now that trade was kind of a pipe dream. But I think there's this kind of grouping of teams with late top 10 picks or early teens picks where you're not in the young Stroud race, but you're in the Will Levis or Anthony Richardson conversation if you're picking a quarterback. The number one for me, which I think I've talked to at least Kobe and Zach about in the past, not on this podcast, but we'll discuss it now, is the Lions. I think if the Lions are interested, their offense is certainly built to win now. And they have enough draft capital that they could do this without really being hurt long term. So if the Lions could give you pick 6, pick 18, pick 49, pick 56, that's 2 firsts and 2 seconds this year. And maybe you get mid-rounds or a pick next year or something, and Jared Goff. And Jared Goff, because they would no longer have a need for Jared Goff, and Jared Goff could start for us for a year or 2 or whatever we need. So then I'd say you have Jared Goff as your starting quarterback, and you with 6 or 18, depending on where you are, maybe you move up from 18, maybe you use 6 on a premium player, whatever you want to do, you pick Will Levis or Anthony Richardson, whichever of those 2 guys you like. And I think that's that would be, I think, the most realistic and also best case scenario for the Ravens as far as trade packages could go. Them in Seattle, but I think Seattle is just going to stick with Geno and see what they can do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Gino's like he's loved by the city of Seattle right now. I don't think
Seattle and Detroit have very similar draft capital. They both have 2 firsts. They have 5 and 6, and they have 18 and 20. They both have 2 seconds. It's very similar, but I think Detroit would be the more. I think Detroit's definitely going to be in on Lamar, and I think that's something that could be doable. Both their firsts, and then whatever the rest ends up being, a couple seconds, maybe a first next year, maybe a bunch of stuff this year. But I think that's possible, and then you could get Goff with that, and that's why it's so appealing to me, because you could have a bridge quarterback who's not the we're signing Mitch Trubisky bridge quarterback. Oh, we're signing Mike Glennon like the Bears thought they were. It's Jared Goff is he's a starting quarterback. He's a solid starting quarterback who you could build a solid team around.
Yeah, I
So that
mean,
one's interesting to me.
that one is intriguing to me. I think that is a team who I hadn't really thought about, honestly, as a possibility. But now that you've said it, it makes a lot of sense. They have the draft capital, as you just pointed out. They're built to win right now, and they're a team that wants to win right now. I think they're a little surprised, probably, that they can go in that direction so quickly. But they definitely can. And ever since Matt Stafford left town, I mean, there's kind of been a hole in Detroit for a new quarterback, and they've never really had a superstar quarterback. I mean, Stafford was a star when he was there for sure, by Detroit standards, but not
Lamar's better than Stafford.
I was gonna say Lamar is so much better than that.
Yep.
It would certainly be interesting, and I mean, not to say the least, that at least we get him out of the conference and about as far away from us as
I think
possible.
it's a big deal. I think that's important. Yeah, because we're not trading. I don't think people are keen on the Dolphins, and the Dolphins have no picks, so that's not happening. The Jets, I suppose,
Also,
could happen, but
the GM
I
of
don't
the
think we're
Dolphins.
trading them in
Oh,
conference.
go ahead. Oh, you're
No, I was
done.
gonna say that we're not trading them in conference.
I was gonna say that the GM of the Dolphins today said that Tua is their quarterback, and he can't make that any more clear. So
All
I
right.
mean, take that
I
as
would
you
not be interested in trading him to the Dolphins anyway. I agree with you that why would you create like another powerhouse in your own conference?
Yeah, no,
I don't.
I
wouldn't
also
want
feel like
that.
any trade with the Dolphins would obviously involve us probably getting Tua back picks, and I don't really
And
know if
Tua's in that golf category of a guy I'd be fine as a
Yeah.
bridge guy, but the problem is Tua's not paid yet, and you'd have to figure out what to do with that. Do you pick up his
And
5th-year? Like, what are you doing
he
with
might,
Tua?
and what also he might just like have brain damage. So
Yeah, he might
he's got 3
retire. Like that's
concussions
on the
last
table.
season.
Dolphins also don't really have the draft capital at all to do this.
Yeah, no, they don't. So the Dolphins is a moot point. Yeah,
give us Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle.
yeah.
Oh yeah,
exactly.
all the
If you
other
give us one
guys
of
that they're
those, then
paying
we'll
are
listen.
kind of Xavier Howard's getting up there in age. Teron Armstead's getting older, and they just paid him too. They traded for Chubb and gave him a huge deal. Chubb's young, but he's coming off the ACL or whatever, and like that team's good. They're talented, but they are at a point where they're not going to have that many picks, and those guys are also getting older that they're paying. So,
Kobe, thoughts on the Lions deal?
Yeah, no, I can get behind that. Like I've been thinking about it for a little bit. I feel like the Lions are going to be a little hesitant to do it. Like it's a similar problem, which makes Lamar's market very interesting. Like some team is going to have to really buy into the idea of Lamar Jackson as their quarterback, because right now, like I feel like the Lions had a really great season. They might not want to mess it up, and you have a lot of draft capital that you can use now to better your roster in the short term without having to add Lamar. So I think for the Ravens, I would definitely do that if we had to, but the Lions also might be a little skeptical.
So Lions, Seahawks, I think more realistic than Houston, but I wouldn't say the most likely scenarios. I'd say here's the list of these next teams are kind of what I would consider the main suitors here: the Raiders, the Falcons, the Jets, because they're so interested, and I think the Jets don't have the crazy draft capital, but you might get years out on them. They might be willing to go crazy on an offer. And maybe the Commanders, but same for the same thing for the. So we'll start with the Falcons and the Raiders and the Panthers too. But I think the Panthers roster is too porous right now. I don't think they'd do it. But so the Raiders and the Falcons, they have picks 7 and 8. The Raiders have 7. They have 39 in the second round and 71 in the third round. The Falcons have 8, 45, and 76. I think you'd need all those picks, all 3 of those picks. You'd need a future first from both of those teams, and probably another future first from both of those teams, probably 3 firsts, or in the case of the Falcons, if they're willing to part with one of their, key young assets or the Raiders are. I don't know who the Raiders want to give us Max Crosby. I don't think they'll do that. But if the Falcons were willing to give you London or shit, I'd play Pitts and Andrews. That'd be fun. But
That'd be the best tight end duo of all time. Like
yeah,
actually, literally.
but regardless, so from those teams, you could get a top 10 pick, a high second round pick, and then it would have to be future a haul of future first round picks that make some rebuild crazy easy to do from any of those teams. And I think that's probably, and then the Jets too. The Jets have 13, 44, 75, and then they have all their own future picks. I think one of those types of scenarios is probably the most likely if he's going to get traded. In which case, if you have to trade him, I don't hate getting a pick high enough to pick a guy like Will Levis. I'm a big Will Levis fan. I don't know that he's going to be ready next year, but in all of those cases, you get those guys, and then you're going to need to find a bridge quarterback. I don't want Derek Carr because you're going to hold on to Derek Carr's contract for a long time. So I don't think Derek Carr is the answer there. But somebody suggested this on Twitter, and I thought it was very interesting. It's like, all right, if you trade Lamar, you have all this new salary flexibility, so you can get these high picks, pick a quarterback either with your pick or the other higher pick, depending on where Richardson and Levis go. Probably have to use 7 or 8, whatever pick you get from Vegas or Atlanta or the Jets on the quarterback. So say it's Will Levis, right? You pick Will Levis. What if bridge quarterbacks in free agency you could go after Garoppolo, I guess. I don't like Garoppolo. Somebody suggested with this new cap flexibility, what if you let Levis sit for a year,
Aaron Rodgers.
Tom Brady
behind Tom Brady? And I was like, that sounds ridiculous. However, I know Brady loves Harbaugh and he loves the organization. I think he's got a lot of respect for
loves
the
Ed Reed, loves Ray Lewis.
He's a lot of respect for the organization.
I would do
he
it.
knows we're relevant.
I definitely would do it.
And you could bring receivers. You could trade for D-Hop. You'd have room for it.
And also Brady recruits people. We know that.
And Brady recruits people.
Have Levis sit behind one of the greatest quarterbacks.
Yeah. So here's the 2 problems with that. One, I don't think that's going to happen. That's the number 1 problem. It's a little ridiculous, but it isn't. I don't think it's impossible. I think the second problem is if you're signing Brady, I think a prerequisite of Brady coming is Brady's going to tell management, you got to pick something for me with that pick you get from Atlanta or the Raiders this year, that top 10 pick. You got to get me the TCU receiver or Jordan Addison or something. I don't love the TCU receiver. I forget his name, but yeah, I don't love him. I think he's okay, but Jordan, you go pick me Jordan Addison or something. I think that would probably be a prerequisite of signing Brady, unless you're along with trading for another big name. But I think it's an interesting thing. I think a name like Garoppolo is probably more likely there. Yeah. And, Garoppolo will, if we get him the weapons, will drag us kicking and screaming to a 9 and 8-7 seed. But then, you move on to Levis or Richardson and see what you got. But I think all of those are that's probably the baseline of what it'll end up being. Of the worst case scenario for this offseason isn't that bad for a rebuild perspective, but it is bad considering we could be contenders if we just hang on to Lamar. But the worst case scenario is you end up with 3 first-round picks, one this year to get a quarterback. But I think, those deals. Any thoughts on those deals? The Falcons, Raiders, or Jets deals? They'd all be very similar.
Even if I think coming from the perspective of the other teams that would be trading for Lamar, I think the Jets and the Falcons could be really, especially the Jets. The Jets, I think, are going to go all in on some quarterback that's available this offseason. I think those 2 teams could be really possibly full on interested in Lamar, all guns a-blazing kind of thing. Because the Jets have shown that they're kind of ready to start winning games now. And then the Falcons are still rebuilding, but they also have some pieces. And I think Arthur Smith and Lamar would be a good pairing because, Arthur Smith's a pretty good run coordinator kind of guy.
Yeah, and he'd have London to Pitts to throw to, be the best receiving core he's ever had.
And Cordarrelle Patterson, and Tyler Algier, the guys they just drafted.
So there's some interesting stuff on offense there.
Yeah.
I think some teams, like if Lamar is really like, totally out of Baltimore, some teams could go like full Madden rebuild and like try and acquire as many first round picks, as possible. Like nothing crazy, but maybe like trade a veteran for like a second round pick or a third round pick. Just try and be able to match an offer of another team that would
Yeah.
be in the bidding. Like if he's really sitting out there and the market is like allowing for it, because this is such a unique situation. There really isn't many
Mhm.
times we've seen something like this.
Yeah. I think I think given that we just paid an inside linebacker all the money we did for Roquan, which I think was worth it. We're not gonna. I don't think we're gonna go in. We're ready to go into some rebuild. So that's why I think we need to get one of these high picks to get a quarterback. And so the Jets, who I think are probably going to be the most aggressive team, just don't have the difference between getting pick 8 from the Falcons and 13 from the Jets is significant. Like the Dolphins,
Yeah.
if you remember, the Dolphins traded a first round pick to move up from whatever it was, 13 to 7 to get Jalen Waddle 2 years ago. Um, and that's significant. So the Jets, if they're going to do it, I think they'd have to. I think they'd have to seriously um, consider putting in some of their young talent. I know they're not going to want to put in Wilson or Sauce. Obviously, Sauce is untouchable, but Garrett Wilson probably is too. But if you could get the Jets, I think would have to be 3 first round picks, 3 second round picks. You know, Elijah Moore and Jermaine Johnson or something crazy like that because they
They're
just don't have
definitely,
the
yeah,
premium pick, but they might be aggressive enough to do something
They
like
don't have
that
the pick
given
and they
where
don't
they
have like
are.
the veteran or the
they're
quarterback who like could
definitely
fill
going to
in.
need to compensate us for that extra risk if they
Yeah,
want to be on the table in the final offers. Because I
yeah.
mean,
Because
like
Mike White's not moving the needle for me.
Joe Flacco, if they were willing to include Flacco, I might actually hear
Yeah,
him
I
out.
might just do Flacco
It might,
straight up.
yeah, I could see Flacco straight up. He'd really help this roster out.
Yeah,
yeah, but I mean, as you were saying, they just don't have that bridge quarterback we need, or the high enough pick to
or the
guarantee
premium pick.
us.
Yeah, at 13, you're
Guarantee
hoping
us.
Richardson or Levis is there. Levis probably won't be there at 13.
Levis won't be there.
Yeah,
You you'd be
Richardson
hoping.
probably. You'd hope Richardson, but if not, you're just fucked.
But
Yeah,
I'm not nearly as high
yeah.
on Richardson as I am
I
Levis
know
from
I like
Brooklyn.
Levis much more than Anthony Richardson. I'm a big
Yeah,
Levis probably isn't ready, but in the Josh Allen kind of way, if you give him a year or two and on the right team, which I think we could be, he could end up being fantastic.
we
So
were the right
I
team for
think
Lamar. We can do it
yeah, we were
again.
exactly. I think we can do it again. I don't want to have to do it again, but you need you need pick 7 from the Raiders or 8 from the Falcons or 9 from the Panthers to get Levis. Even then, that might be because if you get 8 from the Falcons, the Raiders might take him at 7. The Lions might take him at 6. That kind of thing. I think the Colts and Texans are locks to take quarterbacks. And I think the Raiders probably. I actually think the Raiders are the Tom Brady team. That's my gut
I
right
completely
now.
agree with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That'd be
Um,
a lot of
I
fun.
agree with that.
but if you're not getting a pick to get Will Levis, you got to really because Will Levis is no sure thing. So I get the Texans and Colts who are gonna. I think the Colts are gonna trade up to 1 for one of the
Sure.
quarterbacks, Stroud or Young, and then the Texans will take the other one. But if you're one of these other teams, Levis isn't a sure thing, so obviously he's not going as high, or maybe he will. Maybe they'll take a shot on him, but I don't think he's going to go as high as those guys. And so I get why you'd trade a Levis pick to get Lamar. I would do it if I was the Raiders or the Falcons or Detroit. I'd seriously think about it to get a sure thing in Lamar. But we need to be getting that piece back. Otherwise, or like I said, the Jordan Love. But I don't think what reason do the Packers have to trade it? Someone like that or Trey Lance or the Niners, something like that. But if you're not getting that top 10 pick to get that quarterback, the Jets and the Jets have been the one reported super aggressive suitor. You could,
Mhm.
like Kobe said, I could see the Jets trying to move up to get a pick to trade for Lamar and then give more. It'd be
Yeah, they have a good roster. They could just like sell off a veteran or
yeah.
something.
Sometimes you hear that in the NBA. Sometimes the NBA teams are like, oh, they're looking to move up to get a pick to give. Like when the Lakers traded for Anthony Davis, there was reports like the Lakers
Yeah.
are finding places to get another first round pick to
Mhm.
send to New Orleans.
Yeah.
Um,
It's not
you could see
unprecedented.
something like that with the Jets. I think that if I was a betting man, I'd bet on which I am a betting man, but that's besides the point. I would bet on the Jets to be the team to trade for him if he's going to get traded, and that would take a lot. a whole lot to beat even a team like Atlanta's best offer. Because I promise Atlanta's in on it. They were in on Watson, and that's a much worse situation. And they offered 3 first-round picks. This is
They were going to get him into the Browns.
they were going to get Watson for 3 firsts, 2/3, and whatever what the Browns offered. It was a similar offer. They were going to get Deshaun Watson.
Then the full guarantee.
And give him a full guarantee. So for sure they'd be willing to do that. And I don't want Desmond Ridder or Marcus Mariota. So for the Jets to beat that offer, they'd have to go crazy. And I'm kind of here for the bidding war. It'll be fun to watch if it happens. I hope it doesn't, to be honest, but it's definitely going to be an entertaining offseason to say the
If
least.
it doesn't, it'll change the
Ravens.
offseason.
Yeah.
For the whole league.
The first time in my life, Baltimore, Maryland is the center of the NFL offseason. Owings Mills, the castle.
Unfortunately,
one winning drive.
No, it would be interesting, but very painful.
Yeah, painful.
Yeah.
It's the center of the offseason because we're trading an MVP in our franchise player, potentially.
That Adam Schefter.
We are literally
so different when
most
it's like the
likely
Ravens
about
have
to suck
traded Lamar Jackson.
at least a year.
I will root for Lamar wherever he goes.
I will too.
I'm still a Ravens fan, obviously. They're still my first priority. But if Lamar ends up on Atlanta or the Jets, I hope he does well.
If Lamar goes to the Jets and Greg Roman is still employed by the Ravens, I will be a Jets fan.
Oh yeah, I will temporarily be rooting for the Jets. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna be.
We'll protest the team. Honestly, they're not. No one's gonna buy tickets if that scenario comes true.
Bro, I legitimately feel like there's just a chance that could honestly be true.
Yeah, it could happen.
The stadium might legitimately be like a third.
Do you know how good Lamar Jackson will be with Garrett Wilson and Elijah Moore and Breece Hall and
so good. And not Greg Roman.
And not Greg Roman, yeah.
Tyler Conklin,
you can count on us to have whenever the news drops, whether it's an extension or a trade. I think if he's not traded by around the first week or two of free agency, you can expect him to be here for at least this year. And at the very least, if he's not traded by the draft, he's not going anywhere until next year, at the very least. So if we don't have an extension news by the middle of March or free agency news or trade news, then I'm going to be very confused. Is going to be the answer, but I think we'll have an answer in about 2 months from now, mid-March. And you can count on us to either have a celebration pod or a cry together and hope we can get Will Levis pod.
Another
for
roast
the next
of
few months,
pod.
And for the next 2 months, we get to sit here and stress out.
Yeah, we get to. Yeah,
it's a very stressful time to be a Ravens fan. But I was gonna say that probably about wraps it up.
Yeah,
I was gonna say obviously, we all think we played a great game for what we were like the cards
us personally, we were there playing.
Yeah. I think we all fully expected that this team wasn't really gonna be a close game. That's what we all kind of came into the game with was, I remember you talking about on the pod yesterday, or the first football pod. You were like, the Ravens need to just kind of the only way that they could win this game is to just throw everything on out there, and I think that's the only thing we kind of expected.
I have one more thing I want to say on that. We said on the pod Friday that the only way the Ravens win is if the defense plays out of their minds, and we need a defensive touchdown to beat this team. We need a defensive touchdown, otherwise we have no chance. We need at least one defensive touchdown and a defensive shutdown, and our offense to play just good enough. It turned out to be the other way. The Bengals needed a miracle defensive touchdown to beat us, and that hurts. That's very painful. That was
Fan, man. But anyways, I guess that about wraps it up. So thank you for watching the Bird Rights podcast, our emergency Ravens episode.
Yep. Thanks for listening to our rant about Greg Roman.
Fuck Greg Roman.
We'll be back soon to
love you, Lamar. Please stay.
Please
Lamar.
Come back, Lamar.
All right.
Or Will Levis. I have my eye on you. If it's not you, I'm gonna be sad.
Bye, guys.